You know, a lot of people say that college is the time when young men and women expand the way that they look at their world, when they open their minds to new ideas and experiences, and when they begin that long journey from the innocence of youth to the responsibilities of adulthood. Now, isn't that a load of horseshit?
Dean Lewis, why don't you tell them a little bit about the philosophy here at South Harmon?
Look, we throw a lot of fancy words in front of these kids in order to attract them to going to school in the belief that they're going to have a better life. And we all know that all we're doing is breeding a whole new generation of buyers and sellers, pimps and whores, and indoctrinating them into a lifelong hell of debt and indecision. Look, there's only one reason that kids want to go to school.
Holy shit.
Which is?
To get a good job. To get a good job with a great starting salary.
Couldn't agree more.
So refreshing to have somebody approach education so rationally.
Hello to whoever is watching. I hope that you find my videos helpful. This is probably going to be the first video that I put out, and it will just be me going through the Jack Westin daily MCAT passages, and I usually do just the CARS, and I study for MCAT the other material, the other sections via Kaplan books for now, and the AAMC prep material. So it becomes quite clear that I am a student who's studying for preparation or preparing for medical school admissions, and I'm studying for the MCAT. I will be writing my MCAT hopefully in February, so that gives, I think, from what I've read, enough time, as long as I'm doing the preparation daily, enough time to be ready for that February exam, hopefully. And if you're doing the same, then come and do these daily questions with me. I'm just going to read through it, and I'm pretty terrible at these right now. And hopefully I keep on getting better, and if it's something that you would just want to do pop in and do this with me every day. The reason that I'm recording this is because I had a bit of period where I was studying for very long hours, and I was working full time, and I experienced burnout in the summer, right before the summer, and I also left a job that was that had some impacts on me, and but mainly because I was just studying and working really hard, and I experienced massive burnout, and I had absolutely no motivation to study anymore, and that was terrible. It is still a struggle for me. I have no idea why, because I have been studying for quite a number of years, and yeah, and the reason that I want to study for the MCAT, obviously, and I want to start quite early, and I have been studying for the MCAT as well for a while, is because I want to do good. I want to do well on the MCAT, and I want to become a good physician and not a shitty one. That's all I'm going to say. So I just want to be really prepared so that I walk in the exam. I don't know if you guys have had exams where you walk in and you feel like you're super prepared, you're ready, and you just feel terrific. I've had some of those. I wish all of them were like that, but they have not been, unfortunately. But I've written so many exams, and majority of them, I don't know why, when I walk in, I don't feel prepared and I'm not very confident in how I'm going to perform on them. So I want that feeling that when I walk into that MCAT exam room, I am feeling confident and basically do really well on this. So again, I'm going to be doing these passages every day. And my aim is to put it out in the morning because I'm going to be doing it super early in the morning, the first thing that I do with my coffee. And right before I read some news and stuff, like get into like other things, I want to get this out of the way and sort of like a primer for the day. And then I'm also going to be doing study session. I have to figure out how to do YouTube. I've been watching some people that I really like that have it down pat. They do it so well. A lot of them are very funny. I'm not very funny. I think I'm pretty dark. And I might have, that might just be like the flair or like the attitude that I have in my videos, but like very real, dark sometimes. I don't know. So I have to figure out how I'm going to do those study sessions and not make them boring. Maybe I can do something in the breaks, because I used to watch a lot of the study videos and they helped me a great deal. But I don't know what happened. I just kind of found that they weren't helping me anymore. So maybe recording myself doing the work is going to help me. So majorly this is to help me. And then I'm just putting it out there for people who maybe are lonely. Lonely studying for this exam and preparing for medical school. And maybe we can just get something out of it. Both of us, like all of us together. So yeah, I listen to a lot of oh my god, I'm blanking on the name, but I listen to a podcast, and he always says collaboration and not competition. You know, I hope that's what he says, and I am totally blanking on it right now. I have his book right here. Let me see. Oh yeah, Dr. Gray. Yeah, Dr. Ryan Gray. He was in the military, in the U.S. military. I like that. I love that. My grandfathers were both in the military. Not in the U.S., however, they were. And they both suffered. Not suffered. What I mean to say is that they had impact on their life, but they were very proud to serve in the military, and I love that, and I love that he is helping these people, and he has this attitude to collaborate with each other and not compete with each other is what I see in the university that I've been studying. That medical students, I guess they tend to compete, although I don't want to generalize. Anyways, so I have an attitude of helping, but also doing well, right? That everybody does well. I studied for my previous exams like that, with all of my other university mates, my college mates. I've been to college, I've been to university, and I've been working for a while. So yeah, wherever I go, that's what I do. I help out others and I learn from them, whatever they're doing, and hopefully we can just all do well. All right, So let's read this after my big monologue. I'm just going to read through it, and hopefully I can read it well without stopping. And let me know in the comments if you don't, and you know what, if you don't want me to read it, you're welcome to pause until we get to the questions. You can read it yourself. So, sorry, not pause. You can mute until we get to the questions. So you can read it, and I'll try to read it as fast as I can, like a medium pace, so that it's good for everybody, because I know I have to scroll down. But you can also have it open on the Jack Westin website, which you can see at the top what it is. It's just jackwestin.com /daily, and they've got these MCAT practice passages every day, which is terrific. Like, wow, amazing, amazing, amazing. All right, so I'm just going to read it out. All right. Ludwig Wittgenstein's Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus certainly deserves to be considered an important work in the philosophical world, starting from an exploration of the relations which are necessary between words and things in any language. It applies the result of this inquiry to various departments of traditional philosophy. It shows in each case how problems in traditional philosophy arise from the misuse of language. The essential business of language is to assert or deny facts. The meaning of a sentence is knowable as soon as the meaning of its component words is known. For a sentence to assert a certain fact, there must be something in common between the structure of the sentence and the structure of the fact. In philosophy, then, words must correspond with facts. But in what way does Wittgenstein mean correspond? The issue of correspondence is perhaps the most fundamental thesis of Wittgenstein's theory. That which relates to word or the sentence and the fact cannot. So he contends be itself said in language, in his terminology only be shown, not said. I think this might be a mistake, and it might be it can, in his terminology, only be shown, not said, for whatever we may say will still need to correspond to some fact. What does this mean? Take a simple object like a desk. For this simple object, we must have a simple word, which in this case would be desk. Words correspond with facts when they name what a thing is. Words correspond with facts when they name what a thing is. If one wants to get more complex, for instance, to speak of a specific person's desk, then one has to introduce more words. For instance, one could say Wittgenstein's desk in order to mean the desk that stands in a relation of possession to Wittgenstein. In this case, do the words correspond clearly to the thing or to something more abstract than the thing? The first requirement of an ideal language would be that there should be one name for every simple thing, and never the same name for two different things. That is what it means for words and facts to correspond. A name is a simple symbol in the sense that it has no parts, which are themselves symbols. In a logically perfect language, nothing that is not simple will have a simple symbol. The problem with philosophy, Wittgenstein thinks, is that it is made up solely of complex correspondences, which leads to the misuse of language. Rather than simple language, philosophy tries to use very complex words to address very complex problems. Does God exist? What is existence? How do I act ethically? How does one acquire knowledge? Does the world correspond to our knowledge? In a particularly scathing discussion of philosophy's misuse of language, Wittgenstein writes, most propositions and questions that have been written about philosophical matters are not false, but meaningless. We cannot, therefore, answer questions of this kind okay, but only state their meaninglessness. Most questions and propositions of the philosophers result from the fact that we do not understand the logic of our language. They are same kind as the question whether the good is more or less identical with the beautiful. I think this is from Plato or Aristotle. The problem here is not that the problem here is that both the good and the beautiful, I'm thinking the good and the beautiful was like an Aristotle thing. Again, let's not get sidetracked. The good and the beautiful are incredibly complex concepts with no easy relation between word and thing in the world to clarify them. When philosophy tries to address them, it becomes confused by its own language. So this is Bertrand Russell on Wittgenstein's Tractatus. I'm assuming this is a piece of work that he did, like written piece from 1922. All right. Wow. My goodness. All right. So let's tackle the first question. The author's primary purpose is to... Oh, and you know what? I'm sorry I didn't start the timer. You could still do that. It just makes me really anxious to do that. So for the first few weeks or so, maybe I won't do that. Okay, so the author's primary purpose is to provide an explanation for Wittgenstein's correspondence theory of language, explain that what Wittgenstein saw as a major problem for philosophy, suggests that language is an improper medium for philosophical work, critique philosophers who do not take Wittgenstein's advice. Is the correspondence theory of language, is that this? I suppose. Starting from, so this is the theory of language, all right. Starting from an explanation of relations which are necessary between words and things in any language, it applies the result of this inquiry to various departments of traditional philosophy. It shows in each case how problems in traditional philosophy arise from misuse of language. It shows how in each case how problems in traditional misuse of language. Okay. The essential business of language is to assert or deny facts, the meaning of... In philosophy, then, words must correspond to fact. But in what way does Wittgenstein mean correspond? Okay. The issue of correspondence is perhaps the most fundamental thesis of Wittgenstein's theory. That which relates the word or the sentence and the fact cannot, so he contends, be itself said in language. That which relates the word or a sentence and the fact cannot, so he contends, be itself said in language. It can, in his terminology, only be shown, not said, for whatever we say may still need to correspond to some fact. Oh, I get it. What does this mean? Take a simple object. Then he gives example of the desk. If it's a desk, a simple object, desk is sufficient. But when you want to get into complex things, like it's for specific persons, you could say Wittgenstein desk, the desk that stands in relation to the possession of Wittgenstein. In this case, do the words correspond clearly to the thing or to something more abstract than the thing? The first requirement of an ideal language, I mean, I think this comparison, though, is way simpler. Somebody's desk, a desk, and then somebody's desk, because the words that they get into, like the good and the beautiful, they're concepts. They're way more complex. So the first requirement of an ideal language would be that there should be one name for every simple thing, and never the same name for two different things. That is what it means. Okay, and we could apply the good. Whoa. Sorry about that. Just going to. Okay, so the first requirement of ideal language would be that the name is simple. The name is a simple symbol in the sense that it has no parts which to them symbol. In the logically perfect language, nothing that is not simple will have a simple symbol. The problem with philosophy, Wittgenstein thinks, is that it is made up solely of complex correspondences, which leads to the misuse of language. Rather than simple language, philosophy tries to use very complex words to address very complex problems. Does God exist? What is existence? How do I act ethically? How does one acquire knowledge? Does the world correspond to our knowledge? In a particularly scathing discussion of philosophy's misuse of language, Wittgenstein writes, most propositions and questions that have been written about philosophical matters are not false, but meaningless. We cannot therefore answer questions of this kind at all, but only state their meaninglessness. Most questions and propositions of the philosopher result from the fact that we do not understand the logic of our language. They are the same kind. The problem here is that both the good and the beautiful are incredibly complex concepts. Exactly, yeah. With no easy relation between the word and thing in the world to clarify them. When philosophy tries to address them, it becomes complex by its own use of language. Oh, okay. I think I finally get it. I mean, it's pretty shameful, I think. From whatever I've read, it's you're not supposed to read it again all over. But I mean, we're just working through it, so I'm not going to put pressure on myself and try to get through it really fast. I think this author is agreeing and basically summarizing, agreeing with and summarizing Wittgenstein's view, like what he means and what his opposition is to how people are doing philosophical work, how philosophers are philosophizing, I think. And I think he's explaining what Wittgenstein saw as a major problem for philosophy. It's not labeled Wittgenstein's correspondence theory explanation. Provide an explanation for the theory. Well, I would say it's between these two. It's not the author's suggestion, right? Suggests that language is an improper medium for philosophical work, nor is it critique. So where here would be the primary purpose? His work shows in each case how problems in traditional philosophy arise from the misuse of language. Traditional problems arise from the misuse of language. It's not that language, so this is out of the bag, out of question then. The language is an improper medium for it's misuse of language, right? So this is not appropriate. And it doesn't critique philosophers who do not take Wittgenstein's advice. Well, it's not really critiquing other philosophers, because we're talking about what they do, but that's not the primary purpose, right? I think it's just an explanation. Explain what Wittgenstein, I think it's provide an explanation of Wittgenstein correspondence theory of life. I really think it's between these two, but now major problem, how problems in traditional okay, so not a major problem, like where does it say it's a major problem, right? This sentence might lend some credence to that, right? But traditional philosophy, how problems in a traditional, it's not saying that's right. Where does it say? The problem with philosophy, Wittgenstein thinks, is that it is made up solely of complex correspondences, which leads to the misuse of language. Rather than simple language, philosophy tries to use very complex words to address very complex problems. Okay, it's not simplifying it, right? I think this is what it is. And it's definitely not C. Provide an explanation for Wittgenstein's correspondence theory of language. My problem with this option is correspondence theory of language. They're saying Wittgenstein's theory. They've got this name right here, which I don't know if it's Latin or for correspondence theory of language. I think B would probably be my option. And you know what? Let's go ahead with it. I'm just, at this point, it's taking a really long time. Okay. Oh! Yay! My goodness. Okay. So this is the answer. This is the best answer. B encapsulates the passage's focus on the problems associated with the misuse of language and philosophy. Now, why is A not incorrect? Wittgenstein's correspondence theory of language only takes up a part of the passage argument. The argument moves on from A by utilizing the correspondence theory to make a point. But what causes problem in philosophy? The misuse of language. Okay. All right, good. And then C, the passage clearly has a problem with how language is used in philosophy, but it does not clearly suggest a language should not be used by philosophers. This is kind of what I said. Incorrect answer, D, the passage author does not take a strong enough stance with regards to Wittgenstein's advice for D to be correct. There is also not enough discussion of other philosophers, which is sort of close to what we said too. Okay. I've spent a pretty long time on this question. Okay, so the difficulties here. All right, well, okay, that's awesome. I'm gonna move on to the next one because I've taken quite a long time on this. All right, Wittgenstein describes an irony of philosophy, namely that its language corresponds facts and things, but philosophy does not deal with things. Simple things should only have one name, but philosophy uses multiple names for things. It primarily deals with complex objects, but it seeks simple answers. No, this is completely wrong because it's clearly said that they use complex language. Oh, but it seeks simple answers. Okay, all right, well, maybe. It depends on precise language, but it generates imprecise language. I don't know about this precise thing. This completely seems like it wouldn't be the answer. C kind of seems intriguing because right here, the problem with philosophy Wittgenstein thinks is that it is made up slowly of complex correspondences, which leads to misuse of language. Rather than simple language, philosophy tries to use very complex words to address very complex problems. The first requirement of an ideal language would be that there would be one name for every simple thing and never the same name for two different things. That is what it means for words and facts to correspond. A name is a simple symbol in the sense that it has no parts which are themselves symbols. In a logically perfect language, nothing that is not simple will have a simple symbol. I'm kind of running late for something, so I'm kind of like rushing through it, which is horrible because you kind of need to like think about this. Philosophy does not deal with things. I mean, this is nowhere, right? I mean, right here, he gave an example of a desk, which is a thing, right? It's an object. Words correspond with facts when they name what a thing is, right? And it's not saying that when we're dealing with something else more complex, right? And even that is dealing with somebody's thing. And what is a thing, right? I mean, a thing could be not necessarily an object, right? Because this is the way that they're using here, right? Two different things. And how are they explaining this, these concepts of good and beautiful? They are okay, so most questions and propositions of the philosophers result from the fact that we do not understand the logic of our language. They are the same kind as the questions whether the good is more or less identical with the beautiful. The problem here is that both the good and the beautiful are incredibly complex concepts with no easy relation between word and thing. Okay, so they're saying that most questions and propositions of philosophers result from the fact that we don't understand language. They are the same kind of question. Okay, so are they implying that these are the type of questions that philosophers ask and not about objects? So it's language corresponds facts and things, but philosophy, namely that it's language correspond facts and things, but philosophy does not deal with things. I don't think this is the irony of philosophy. Simple things should only have one name, but philosophy uses multiple names for things. These are not simple things. A desk is a desk. Could it be also a table? I don't know. But this is not, I don't think this is appropriate either. This is not an irony. It primarily deals with complex objects, but it seeks simple answers. This could be it. It depends on precise language. I mean, I'm going to go ahead with it because I got to go somewhere. Horrible, horrible. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Why is D the correct answer? It depends on precise language, but it generates imprecise language. Okay, this is the best answer. It is irony that most closely resembles the points made in the last few paragraphs of the passage. Rather than simple language, philosophy tries to use very complex words to address very complex problems. Okay, so even though precise is not used, they're using precise and imprecise. So that's a good lesson for us. That the word doesn't necessarily have to be in there. And most propositions and questions have been written about philosophical matters are not false but meaningless. Okay, I understand that. And why is C not the answer? Okay, the passage does not clearly suggest that philosophy seeks simple answers. Okay, that's fair enough. All right. Okay, so there's 5 questions. All right. Which of the following relationships is most like the suggested relationship between words and facts? So where words, the essential business of language is to assert or deny facts. The meaning of a sentence is knowable as soon as the meaning of its component words is known. For a sentence to assert a certain fact, there must be something in common between the structure of the sentence, and the structure of the fact. In philosophy, then, words must correspond with facts. But in what way does Wittgenstein mean correspond? Okay, a sort of correspondence is perhaps the most fundamental thesis of Wittgenstein theory, which relates the word or the sentence of the fact cannot, so he contends, be itself said in language. It can in his terminology only be shown, not said. For whatever we may say will still need to correspond to some fact. Okay, all right, yeah, I think I understand this. So whatever we say, okay, what does this mean? Take a simple object like a desk. For this simple object, we must have a simple word, which in this case would be a desk. Words correspond with facts when they name what a thing is. Words correspond with facts when they name what a thing is. Okay. Name what a thing is. So words correspond with facts. Words and facts. Homes to families. Teams to cities. Flags to nations. Right off the bat, I feel like flags to nations. So in this instance, so words and facts. Okay, so these are words and these are facts. So if these name what a thing is, then they're facts. Homes, not really. Homes does not this can't be a fact, right? For it. The desk that stands in relation to possession of possession to Wittgenstein. In this case, do the words correspond clearly to the thing or to something more abstract than the thing? Okay. Team to cities. Flags to nations. Word, flags, letters to numbers. These are two different, right? I mean, I would say letters, words, numbers, something else, like a phone number. I don't know. I have no idea. but is most likely to suggest a relation between, I'm gonna pick flags and nations and okay, correct. C is the best answer. The passage claims that words need to correspond to facts. Flags correspond to nations. Each nation has a flag. The nations do not share flags. Okay, all right, specific. A is not correct. Homes to family. This is incorrect because the passage argues the words should directly correspond with facts. In paragraph 2, homes do not necessarily correspond with families. Families can have multiple homes, and homes can be owned by individuals. Okay. B is not correct, which was teams to cities. This is incorrect because, like A, teams and cities do not necessarily correspond in the way that the passage suggests. Words and facts do. Cities can have multiple teams in them. Okay. D, the last one, letters and numbers. This is incorrect because there are many relationships between letters and numbers, but none that can clearly imply the correspondence that the passage states should exist between words and facts. Okay, so this is kind of making me feel good. Fourth one, I have to really zip through this. The passage would suggest which of the following explanations for why it is so difficult to answer the question, what is the meaning of life? It's a complex question. The sentence is so complex, it is meaningless. This could be it, right? To try to assign value to life is illogical. This passage is not getting into the discussion of explanation of what these questions are. So it takes too long to explain what in simple terms. It didn't say anything about timing. It's about language. Concepts like life do not have an inherent meaning. No, we're not discussing this. I don't know. It could, I don't know. I'm just going to go ahead and. Okay, awesome. I'm just going to read out why this is correct. This is the best answer. The passage argument suggests that the problem with philosophical questions is that they use words that are so complicated that they lose their meaning. The question stem states a question that is in keeping with those philosophical questions described in paragraph 5 and with what the main idea of the passage describes. Okay, awesome. Last one. With which of the following statements would Wittgenstein, I'm not even sure if I'm saying his name right, most likely agree? With which of the following statements would Wittgenstein most likely agree? Okay. Names are arbitrary. Philosophy is the most important human endeavor. Everything has its proper use. There are inherent benefits to simplicity. I'm leaning towards the last two. I mean, these are too broad. Not broad, I don't see the point of them. Everything has its proper use. So are they saying that language? Because he is saying that language, he never says, he's a misuse of language. Well, I think I'm going to choose D, inherent benefits to simplicity, because, I mean, he's arguing that. It should be simple answers, right? I don't know. It's between these two. All right, awesome. So D is the best answer. The passage describes how philosophers fail because they use language that is too complex. Sorry about that. That is too complex for their purposes. That implies that there are benefits to not being complex, to being simple. Okay, awesome. So that's it for now. I'm going to end this video, and hopefully I haven't taken up too much of your time, and hopefully you found this useful. There is also a passage analysis by them, which you can go through. I'll probably not go through this right now, but tomorrow I'm going to post another video of me doing the same thing, and hopefully I can do it faster, and hopefully I don't have to rush through it as well towards the end. when I'm doing the question part like I had to today. All right, have an awesome day, and hopefully you have a productive day studying and whatever you need to do. See you tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching.